The sun was setting over Highway 41 when Rachel's old Ford finally gave up. Steam poured from under the hood as she coasted to the shoulder. She was 30 miles from anywhere that mattered. Rachel stepped out into the Texas heat. 28 years old and already feeling like life had passed her by. Divorced 6 months now. Working double shifts at the diner in Millbrook just to keep her small apartment. This truck was supposed to get her to her sister's wedding in Austin. Now it sat dead on a lonely road. She kicked the tire in frustration. That's when she heard the horse. A man rode up slowly on a paint horse that looked as road-worn as Rachel felt. He wore a dusty black hat pulled low. His denim shirt had seen better days. Work boots that had walked 1,000 miles. Everything about him said drifter, wanderer, man with nothing to lose. Truck trouble? His voice was deep, gentle somehow despite the roughness around the edges. I can see that, Rachel said, trying not to sound as desperate as she felt. You know anything about engines? He dismounted and walked to the front of her truck, opened the hood without asking, studied it with the focus of someone who actually knew what he was looking at. Radiator hose is split, he said after a moment. You've been losing coolant for a while, I guess. Rachel felt tears threatening. She was so tired of things breaking, of barely holding it together. I don't have money for a tow, she admitted quietly. The cowboy looked at her then, really looked at her. His eyes were striking, deep brown with flecks of gold in the sunset light. There was sadness in those eyes, old sadness that had settled in and made a home. Town's not far on horseback, he said. I can ride to Jensen's garage. Have them send someone out. I can't pay you, Rachel said, hating how small her voice sounded. Didn't ask you to, he replied. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled a wrench from his saddlebag, some wire and electrical tape. For the next 20 minutes, he worked on her truck, his movements sure and practiced. Finally, he straightened up. That'll get you to town at least, he said. Won't hold forever, but it'll hold long enough. Rachel stared at him. Why are you helping me? He was quiet for a long moment. Because someone helped me once when I needed it, he finally said. Long time ago now. He introduced himself as James. Didn't offer a last name. Rachel didn't push. They talked while the engine cooled enough to restart. He told her about riding through Texas, about sleeping under stars, about how the land spoke if you knew how to listen. She told him about the diner, about her sister's wedding she was probably going to miss now, about feeling stuck in a life that wasn't supposed to be hers. You ever feel like you're just going through the motions? She asked. James looked away toward the horizon. Every day for the last 12 years, he said softly. There was a story there. Rachel could feel it, but she didn't pry. When the truck started again, James refused any money. Just pay it forward someday, he said. Then he rode off into the gathering darkness. Rachel made it to Millbrook, got her truck properly fixed the next day, missed her sister's wedding, but somehow didn't feel as bad about it as she thought she would. 3 days later, James walked into the diner during Rachel's shift. He looked startled to see her, almost turned around to leave. Sit down, Rachel called out. Coffee's fresh. He sat at the counter. She poured him coffee, and they talked. He came back the next day. And the day after that, over 2 weeks, they built something. Friendship, maybe, or the beginning of something more. Rachel learned that James had walls built high around his heart, that he carried grief like a second skin. One evening, after her shift, they sat in his truck. She'd learned he actually owned a truck, that he wasn't quite as much a drifter as she thought. I had a wife once, James said suddenly, staring straight ahead through the windshield. Catherine, we were going to have a family, build a real life together. Rachel waited, knowing this was important. Cancer took her 12 years ago, he continued. I was 29 years old and suddenly alone. We just bought our first place together, had all these dreams. His voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry, Rachel said, meaning it. I sold everything after she died. James went on. Couldn't stand to be surrounded by what we'd planned. Took to the road. Figured I'd keep moving until I figured out why I was still here, and she wasn't. Did you figure it out? Rachel asked gently. James finally looked at her. No, he admitted. But I stopped looking about 5 years in. Just kept moving, because I didn't know how to stop. Rachel reached over and took his hand. Maybe it's time to stop running, she said. James pulled away, not harshly but firmly. You don't understand, he said. I'm not who you think I am, Rachel. Then tell me who you are. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. My family owns land, he finally said. A lot of land. Ranches. Oil rights. Property from here to the New Mexico border. I'm not some broke cowboy drifting through. I'm James William Hartley. And I walked away from an empire because I couldn't stand to run it without her. Rachel processed this. So you've been pretending to be poor? No, James said firmly. I've been trying to be someone else. Someone who doesn't have responsibilities, expectations, a legacy breathing down his neck. He looked at her with those sad eyes. I'm sorry I wasn't honest. Rachel thought about her own life, about running from her failed marriage, about hiding in double shifts and small dreams. I think we're both running, she said finally. Maybe we could try standing still. Together. James wanted to believe her. She could see it in his face. But 12 years of grief had taught him not to hope. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted. Do what? Feel again, he said. Let someone in. Risk losing them. Rachel squeezed his hand. James, you're not living right now. You're just existing. Catherine wouldn't want that for you. Something shifted in his expression. Pain mixed with possibility. How do you know what she'd want? Because if I love someone, Rachel said, really love them, I'd want them to live fully even after I was gone. I'd want them to find joy again. James closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. I'm scared, he whispered. Me too, Rachel said. But I think that means it matters. They sat in the truck as the Texas night settled around them. Two broken people considering whether they had the courage to try being whole again. I don't even know where to start, James said. Rachel smiled. How about tomorrow you pick me up after my shift? We'll get dinner. Talk. See where it goes. Just like that. Just like that. James nodded slowly. Okay. He did pick her up the next day. And the day after that. Slowly, carefully, they built something real. It wasn't easy. James had to learn to let his walls down, to trust that life could be kind again. Rachel had to learn that she deserved someone who showed up, who stayed, who chose her. 6 months later, James took Rachel to the Hartley Ranch. She finally saw the full scope of what he'd walked away from. The main house sat on a hill overlooking thousands of acres. This was Catherine's dream, James said as they stood on the porch. She wanted to turn part of it into a retreat, a place where people could come heal, find peace. That's beautiful, Rachel said. James looked at her. Would you help me build it? He asked. Not for me, not even for Catherine really, but for people like us. People who need a place to figure out how to start over. Rachel felt tears on her cheeks. Yes, she said. James pulled her close. I can't promise I won't be scared sometimes, he said. I can't promise I won't remember her and feel sad. I don't want you to forget her, Rachel said. She made you who you are. I just want to be part of who you're becoming. They stood together on that porch. Two people who thought their best days were behind them, learning that sometimes the story isn't over. Sometimes it's just beginning. The retreat opened 2 years later. People came from all over. Folks dealing with grief, divorce, loss of all kinds. James and Rachel ran it together, building something meaningful from the ashes of pain. On quiet evenings, they'd sit on that same porch, watching the sun set over land that had finally become home again. Thank you, James would say. For what? For seeing me that day on the highway, he'd answer. For making me believe I could still be someone worth knowing. Rachel would kiss him then, grateful that her truck had broken down, that a cowboy had stopped to help. That life had given them both a second chance. Because sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another. And sometimes love finds you when you stop looking for it. On a dusty highway, in the golden hour, when you're both exactly where you need to be. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories about second chances and unexpected love. And leave a comment telling me about a time when a stranger's kindness changed your path. Your story might inspire someone else to keep hoping.